Some of you know that last week, my wife Karen and I hosted 25 college friends from around the country at our home. 25. This is actually our 8th year of doing it. The first year it was like, hey, it's fun to get reconnected on Facebook. Maybe a few of you would want to come. We were in Florida at the time, and 16 came. And it's grown every year. And this year we decided we need to cap it at 25. And just to be clear, we do not live in a mansion. Some of them were in our camper. Some were in a rented RV that we planted in our front yard, to which we found out that the city of Phoenix doesn't like that. We got a citation. Some of them were in mattresses in the house. Many of them were sharing double beds scattered all around, and they seemed to be quite pleased with the idea of it. It was a lot of food, a little bit of alcohol, so much laughing. So the ties between this group are strong, not just because we have a shared background, but because we've seen each other through a lot since then. It started by helping proofread each other's papers in college and provide shoulders to cry on after breakups. It was from making family with each other when our own families were far away. And it has been cemented over this last 10 years through helping each other with cancer diagnoses, deaths of family members, divorces, and struggles with our children. I often say this is the group where we can be messy and broken, and we can do it together and still be there and have fun and support each other. We have not named it as such, but I can look at it in this context and say what we have is a covenantal relationship. Covenantal most simply means to come together, as we are doing here for worship today. Convention is from the same root, Latin root con, which means together, and venire, which means to come. So covenant more specifically means to come together by making a promise, as when two people promise to care and love for each other, or 200, or 2,000. As adults, we make all kinds of covenants, whether we name it or such. If we get married, we promise or covenant to love and respect, perhaps to be faithful, perhaps to love through sickness or in health. If we have children, we promise or covenant to care for the child, to keep it safe, to instill values. And we make covenants with our friends, our families, to check on them, to laugh, and to cry with them. And today we heard our congregation's covenant. This is actually not an easy set of statements. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's really, really hard. And many times we don't keep them. But there is something in us that wants to. Our best selves yearn to act like this on a regular basis. And it is times when we are doing that well that we need to commit to that for the times when we don't remember or don't do it well. So there's actually a long history of covenantal relationships within religion. And it was actually one of the cornerstones of the colonizing people of America. So I know that what I'm telling you, this story of our history, also comes from those same colonizers that Katie was talking about. So I want you to hold the tension in that. But we come from the Puritan church. And when they were defining early church in New England, they wanted it to specifically be different than the authoritative church of England from which they had left. Now, remember, all of these people came to this country under the misguided premise of manifest destiny, conquered the native people who lived here, and laid claim to land that was not there. was not theirs. Some of their theologies were repressive and have tentacles that still harm us today. And yet, much of how we practice religion today comes from those Puritans and from that history. And whether we like them or not, our way of managing our Unitarian Universalist congregations come from them as well. So I'm going to throw some UU history down on you. The Cambridge Platform of 1648, a critical document in UU history, defines the principles of a covenantal church. It says that we come together not only by word of mouth, but by sacrifice, and also sometimes by silent consent, without any writing or expression of words at all. As a reaction to an oppressive religious environment, the Puritans embraced a free religion. They advocated for free speech, dissent, open debate, tolerance of different opinions, and a disciplined search for truth. They also saw it as an act of democracy and community. Instead of putting the power in the hands of a small elite that was not interested in the welfare of all, or without consent or accountability, they created a collective agreement, one that included the free conscience of each individual in a mutual commitment for the common good. So it's not enough to say that we're in covenant with each other or to sign a document. We have to practice it. We make a covenant and then we break it. We screw up. I said some really nice words to Karen when we got married. She said some really nice words to me. Yay, we're married. But it turns out that we have to do that every day. We have to actually practice the words that we said. Some of you may feel a kinship with this. She makes it very easy. But we have to keep working to be in covenant. Sometimes we're just tired and cranky and we don't want to be that day. Sometimes we break our covenant intentionally, and sometimes we do it without knowing. But we must practice getting back into it. We did sing Come, Come, Whoever You Are. It is my favorite version with that we've broken our vows 1,000 times. Because the song doesn't really make sense without it. This lover, come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. What is a lover of leaving, and how does that make sense? And I never got that song until that we've broken our vows 1,000 times came into that song. And then it all clicked together. And I love that we say it over and over again, because we break our vows over and over again. So what does breaking our vows in a congregation look like? We can imagine what it looks like in a relationship. We often think of the really big breaches, but it is often the small cuts that hurt. Sometimes it's saying something abruptly and unkindly. It may be not completing what we said we were going to do. It may be getting upset with someone and not talking to them about it, or worse, talking to a third party about them without them knowing. Sometimes it means that we say something out of our privilege that hurts our siblings of color or of different sexual or gender identities, or those of different classes, among others. We are human. We are humaning together, as Sam has so kindly echoed from my very first sermon with you all. The key is then we need to make it right again, finding our way in love and compassion. We have broken our vows 1,000 times, and yet we come, yet again come. For me, our covenantal faith is even more relevant for our times, and that is a headline for our stewardship next week, For Our Times. We are in a for our times, my people. We are in the for our times right now. This covenantal relationship is an antidote to the individualistic culture that is particularly, I'm finding, found in Arizona, but is very prevalent in all of the United States. People are already more individualistic here than most cultures. The Lone Ranger was glorified, heading out into the wild, wild west and overcoming adversity all by himself. There is this mythology that each one of us is an island in control of our own destiny, even though we know that's not the case for even a single one of us. And our modern post-industrial capitalistic system just accentuates this. We're out to make the most money, rise to the highest position, we can take care of number one, all of the slogans that mean we want to win no matter who loses. And often the cost is high. It's on those that we have to step on to get to that position, to those who are marginalized and get left behind in the scramble, and especially to our environment in this winner-takes-all land grab. In living in a covenantal relationship, we are saying that this community, our beloved community, is greater than that individual. And that what is better for us collectively is more important than what is better for any of us as individuals. That is some serious countercultural stuff right there. Serious. But then there's one more main reason that I love covenants. Because our way of being in relationship together is not just good for us, but it also leads to social change. The Puritans' emphasis on covenants challenged the status quo. By saying that they were going to work cooperatively and democratically, they challenged economic systems that neglected the poor, justice systems that were unfair, prison systems that were cruel, and economic practices that concentrated the wealth in the hands of a few. There are a lot of ways that we can change the world. We can march, we can sign postcards, please do, we can pass resolutions, we can write letters to those in power, and those are all important. But I think the biggest way that we impact change is to be the change we wish to see in the world, as Mahatma Gandhi said. Be the change ourselves. As much as I want, I cannot individually change the world, the country, definitely not the state of Arizona by myself. Heck, I can't even change my own family sometimes. But I can change myself, and I can impact this congregation and community. I know I have changed here already. I look out at all of you, and I know you have too. We can do that together. This is our radical idea, that we decide how we want to be in community together, and that by living into that covenant with each other, we are modeling the world that we want to create. We are envisioning what we want the whole world to look like by practicing it over and over again, practicing it right here. Covenant is not just an exercise in governance. It is the way that we wish to see the world be. It is not just words, it is a commitment to being our best selves. It is not just an internal statement, it is a statement from us to the wider world of how we want everyone to act. This is our opportunity, and it is our obligation. It's the audacious, the bold, the radical idea that the world that we want to create has already arrived, and that we are living out our slice of it right here, right now, breaking our vow 1,000 times, and then coming yet again, coming back together in covenant with each other. So it might be, right here and in the wider world. Amen. 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 So this is your chance now This is your chance to review that covenant one more time and to decide to recommit to it again, or commit to it for the first time, or be a visitor and say, that sounds cool, I'm good with that, and go ahead and sign it, or put a sticker on it, or go and just bless it if you'd wish. Anyone here who can decide that this is how they'd like to treat others inside this space and outside of here. So come, whoever you are, even though we've broken our vows 1,000 times, let's come together in covenant.